All
All
right,
right,
boys.
Nick.
We're back for another exciting episode of Game Debate, featuring Nate Merritt, featuring Will Johnson, starring me. Anyways,
What?
I'm totally joking, by the way. Today's episode is simply going to be, what is your favorite Zelda game ever made? Oh my God, this is not easy. Spoiler alert on Nate's T-shirt. It may give away his answer. But Will,
I'm battling a little monkey back here, so
oh, we don't care. It's all good. Us
Hey,
older
Nick, think
gamers,
about what you know.
us older gamers got to deal with kids. You both have kids. I probably have some. They've either been smished. I mean, I don't know what happened. If I see a tall, curly haired kid, I just smile and nod.
I think yours might
Pull
be
and
on
pray,
the bottom
boys.
From, I think all yours might be in the bottom of a tube sock, Nick.
These guys think they're funny. We'll think how funny Will thinks when he's not invited back next week. See, our channel was Super Johnson Brothers Entertainment. It's gonna be Super Nick next week. To open up with Zelda, though, first of all, I don't know about you guys. Me personally, Zelda is easily my favorite gaming franchise of all time.
Easily. Yeah,
Easily.
me too.
NES Zelda, one of the first Nintendo games I ever played. But we did have an Atari before that, so it's not like it's the first game I ever played. And then, obviously, Link to the Past. I mean, oh, wow, that's a special one. And then all the way to like games like Ocarina of Time to recently Breath of the Wild. So I'll toss to you, Nate. Nate, let's start with what does Zelda mean to you? What is Zelda to you? What is Zelda? When you hear Zelda, Nate, what's Zelda? What is that?
my brother, basically. It's memories with my brother because, like you guys had mentioned before in previous episode about playing Earthbound, how you share the controller.
Mm-hmm.
So my brother and I had the one Nintendo. We had, obviously one copy of Zelda. We had Nintendo Power. There was that one issue in Nintendo Power that had the map of the Lost Woods and the NES version. I can distinctly remember us pulling out that Nintendo Power and looking through that Lost Woods map for Zelda. So he was always the brains of the game, and I was always the player of the game. So I usually had the controller. He usually had the map, or he had the Nintendo Power. He was telling me what to do and where to go, because I was always just kind of like
cool,
a little bit better at playing.
Yeah.
And he was always smarter than me. I mean, that's still true today. But he always kind of helped me and told me where to go. And I mean, those memories, I'll never forget those. And of course, we were dying for A Link to the Past when it came out. And then Link's Awakening is another kind of one where we had it on Game Boy. And I used to sit, on the brick Game Boy. There's no backlight or anything. So I used to sit in the light of a lamp that my dad was using to, he would play crossword puzzles every night. I would sit next to him under that same light he was using and play my Game Boy. So it's just more memories. It's just memories. That's what it is.
And we all know nostalgia plays such a heavy role. Because Nate's talking about nostalgia for Final Fantasy for him. So Will, throw it to you. I know we have a very similar story about brothers playing Zelda. Now, for you, though, what's Zelda to you, the franchise?
I think Nate nailed it. And for me, it's also you kind of, you take that sword and the stone philosophy, that thing where the weak kid could pull the sword out and be the hero. You know what I mean? It's so pure. It's white pure.
That's right here,
and
baby.
I think going back then, this is pre-internet days. So, like, literally, you would talk to a friend who played it and gotten past the part that you couldn't figure out.
Yes,
I
good
one
point.
In particular, there's a part in the game where you got to knock a book down off a library shelf. And, Nick and I were stuck there for weeks.
Yeah,
same
here.
We go find heart pieces, but after a while, you kind of run out. You can't figure it out. And finally, our brother said, "Hey, you got to get the boots, and you got to knock off that book." And
I know in previous episodes I give young gamers a hard time, but I'm going to do it again. I'm sorry, I'm going to do it again. Young gamers don't realize there were video games that came out before the internet was a thing. In a game like Zelda that had so many mysteries and puzzles and bomb spots and all that. I mean, you'd be at school, somebody'd be like, "Hey, man, have you heard of this or this or that?"
Yeah.
Or blah, blah. It's just like
I miss those days.
Yeah,
I remember calling. I would call my, if somebody didn't have it, know how to do it, I'd call the next person. Hey, do you got this part? How do you do that? I miss that so much.
Yeah. It's like the what's it called, the watershed, the conversation at work.
Yeah,
what do we call that?
By water cooler. Yeah.
Yeah, and now like kids, even with kids, oh my, there's nothing like it, man.
When Breath of the Wild came out, Nick and I both agreed for the first run, Breath of the Wild, no internet. So when we got together, he'd bring out his Switch and show me his map. Man, there's a fairy here on the map. Or, hey, there's a
That's
spot
cool.
here you can find something. It really takes you back.
No, talk about exactly what you're getting at there, Breath of the Wild. We all know they took the approach of the original Zelda. But the thing about them is that game was so well guarded. Almost all the stuff you saw before its release, before the final trailer, which dropped in January before the March release, it showed nothing out of the Great Plateau.
Yeah,
the first couple hours of the game. They protected it. And also, so when it came out, no one really knew anything that was going on. I remember, like, I live with two roommates. We all three played at the same time. And he'd be like, I'd run in his room and see he would find this giant one-eyed giant or this guy. And the thing is, like, off the plateau, you go anywhere. So it was a true adventure like original Zelda. Yep. Anyway, so we all have confirmed we love Zelda. So I'll throw it to you, Will. What's your favorite Zelda game of all time and why?
It's Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo. It's like picking one of your own kids. I'll give you all a little background. I love Breath of the Wild, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Link's Awakening. Those are the ones that really just jump out to me. Link to the Past is it, though. And you nailed it. I think Zelda 1 was a little hard for me when I was a kid. It's a very difficult game. Link to the Past, it dials down the difficulty quite a bit, to be honest. But it's the lore of it, getting the weapons, the whole thing. Every dungeon you go to, whether it be a hook shot or whatever it is, you use that item throughout the whole thing, or maybe halfway through you find it and you can reach a new place. There was nothing like it when we played it, Nick. And the fact that you get the hearts, even like get your like health up and make yourself tougher. The sounds in the game, it was just so mind blowing to me as a kid.
Yeah,
Nate mentioned in the last video we did, we talked about that game that really just stuck with him forever. I think it was Final Fantasy 3 you mentioned. That's what Link to the Past was for me. It really changed how I view games to this day. That game. That's the one. That's the one game.
And the thing about Link to the Past, specific to the Zelda series, it probably created so many conventions and ideas and concepts that are true to the series now.
Yeah, I think Link to the Past is the defining Zelda. I think that's the Zelda that made Zelda what it is today.
I agree. Pulling the sword, the whole thing, the Master Sword is not important without that game. Period.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what Nate and Will just said there. That's the game that introduced the Master Sword. It's the game that introduced introduced like Kakariko Village, all these things. And specifically that soundtrack. I know you guys can agree. Koji Kondo, those guys, that sound, it created not the main title theme, but there's so many songs that were introduced in that game that are staples to the series to this day.
But it even introduced a musical instrument too, because the ocarina.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people. That's what a lot of people forget. In the right beside Link's house there, where you dig up the key of all the animals. It's essentially it's ocarina, man.
It's an ocarina, yeah.
I mean, people forget that's. I mean, I don't know if there's arguments to same ocarina and all that shit, but yeah, it introduces the musical element side to it too, and upgradable weapons. So yeah, even quick throwback here. I remember like several years back when we played Link to the Past multiple times. Remember, they're the more advanced version of the sword. We didn't realize we could get, Will, because you can get tempered. Yeah. You can get tempered.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so. That was, yes.
They got the golden sword, Nick. That's
yes,
right in the pyramid there at the end.
That was amazing. That's one of the things for me that always stood out was going to that Zora Pond and throwing in different. Just trying. I remember when I first played through that, I threw every single item in there to see what I could get that would be great. It's so good, so good.
Awesome.
It's something that I think that a great game like Okami does. When you first play that game and you beat the first 3 places and then go to the end, like I think mindset as a kid, that's the end of the game. But you don't even realize not only is that not the end of the game, you're going to a new world of a ton more dungeons, and then you're playing. The 2 overlaying maps and the secrets, it's just mind blowing. All the stuff.
You know what it makes me think of? I thought about this before. Some people get this, maybe some don't. The song "Band on the Run" by Paul McCartney and Wings.
Yeah.
There's a beginning part of that song, and it's awesome. It sets up the song, and then it kind of stops and completely changes.
Yeah.
It's almost exactly how Link to the Past is. You pull that Master Sword, it is a different ball game.
I just want to say something for the record here. I remember the first time we played Link to the Past. Outside Hyrule Castle, there's that beam you can't get through. And I argued with Will and my sister both. I said, Master Sword, I bet you could swing and break it. They thought it was a horrible idea. They tried a million other things, and finally they decided to try my idea. And it worked.
It worked. That's a true story. I can remember us playing for hours. Like, maddening. Couldn't figure it out. Gotta use the sword, duh. You
want to talk about innovation. Don't forget the NES Zelda was the first game to have a battery-backed save file.
Oh, Nick, I meant to correct you a second ago. You remember on Zelda 1, there's a flute in that game for fast travel, just like Link to the Past.
Oh, God. I forgot about that. That's old school.
Link's Awakening did have the 8 instruments to open up the windfish.
Is that where you hold your hand up and it flies and picks you up and flies off or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man, there's
always been something musical in each Zelda.
Yep.
Yeah.
True.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, Nate, what would your favorite Zelda be?
I'm going to have to go with Link to the Past 2 because it was just so. It was. People, young gamers, they don't understand how defining these games were for us back then because it was new, and at that point we had not seen anything quite like it.
No. And how much it influences today's games too.
Yeah, all the influences. Yes. I mean, the like you guys were saying, when you think the game is pretty much, you think it's coming to an end when you get the 3 necklaces, medallions. Yeah, you get those and you think the game's pretty much coming to an end. Then it's just a brand new game after that. It's like it was mind blowing. It was just mind blowing. I mean, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, one of my favorite games of all time, probably would not have happened if it wasn't for Link to the Past.
Good because yeah.
Now, here's something that a lot of people talk about, and I don't think I heard many comparisons do. A lot of people want to say, especially when it came out, that Ocarina of Time was like it's still technically the best review video game of all time. But what people don't realize about Ocarina of Time, it is very much a copy of Link to the Past.
It really is.
Because in Ocarina of Time, you beat 3 dungeons. Yeah. But instead of going to the Lost Woods, you go to the Temple of Time. You pull the sword, and the world change. I mean, Ocarina of Time is very similar to Link to the Past, actually. Very similar. But, think about let's talk about Ocarina of Time for a second, man. For being such a highly reviewed game, and definitely when it came out, it was a big deal, and I loved it. But maybe because it was the early days of polygons, because a lot of people don't realize Ocarina of Time, at its fastest rate, only ran at 20 frames per second.
Wow.
So, I mean, when you go back and play it now, it's so blocky, and like I have a hard time playing it unless you're playing the 3DS version.
Yeah.
It's tough to play. Like I look back on Ocarina fondly, but the difference between Ocarina and Link to the Past is still you can still play it. It's timeless.
It's timeless. Yeah,
and I'm not being mean. I don't think Ocarina is timeless. I think it's a masterpiece, but I'd much rather go 100 to 1. I'd rather go back and play Link to the Past than Ocarina of Time.
Have you guys been following Cryogenics on YouTube? The guy that's remaking.
The Ocarina remake. Yes.
Yeah, the Ocarina remake. He
does the Unreal one.
Yes, and the Unreal. Now, would you be up for a remake like that for Ocarina?
I would give away a kidney for that game.
Yeah, yes. I think that would be. It's what they should do with the FF7 remake.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
What I don't understand is like talk about the 3DS remakes of Majora and Ocarina. They convert those to the Switch and put them on the eShop for 20 a pop. Why can we not play? A lot of people, I don't think, have played those Zelda games on 3DS, and they're incredible. They made those playable again.
Great. Yeah.
Like on Ocarina, they redid all the character models. They changed animations. It looks beautiful. Yeah. And some people have some qualms with the Majora's Mask remake because some of the things it nerfed it hard. But hey, Alpine was able to beat it for once. Yeah, but let's talk about. I want to talk about y'all get to pick your favorite Zeldas of all time. I'm going to pick mine, and mine's Breath of the Wild. And the thing here is, I say it's so like no big deal as that one. That's a very hard decision to make. And I think I always argue that plays into me. We all are lifetime diehard from NES day one down to day one-ish for Zelda and Nintendo. But through the Wii U had some dark years. Nintendo was in the gutter, and Nintendo was a joke to everybody.
Well, to be honest with you, Zelda games kind of carried it for a while. Think about Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. There were nothing,
And then we have games like, Breath of the Wild that were supposed to be released. They get delayed. And it was like that beacon of hope. It was like back in the era when like FF7 and Ocarina were coming out. These are the games of the future. And that's what Breath of the Wild was forever. And going through the Wii U and this horrible years of being a Nintendo fan and no one cares about Nintendo. They're losing money for the first time ever and all this. I think of the Independence Day speech, we will not go quietly into the night. I think of fucking Miyamoto and like if Iwata was still there, because Iwata was there during the whole development of that game. He didn't get to see it go down. Easily one of the best game company runners of all time, Satoru Iwata. And oh my God, I just think like them to sit back knowing we got Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And we're gonna shove it straight up. If there was a kid present, up your effing A. Like they're going to, oh god, that game, man. I mean, I think the N64, it launched with 2 games, Pilot Wings and Mario. The Switch, man, it didn't have a great library out of the gate. It does now. It's one of the best libraries in Nintendo history. But out of the gate, there's Breath of the Wild, and there wasn't shit else. You're buying shit like Bomberman and stuff, and Bomberman's great, but stuff just to have another game. Or you're buying like is it Scissor Clips or whatever it's called, Snipper Clips? It's a good game, but it didn't matter because it had Breath of the Wild. It had.
Nick, you often call it the game that saved Nintendo.
Yeah,
because it is the game that saved Nintendo. Unquestionably, it is. I've never seen a game released to the reviews that game got in the modern era. We live in an era of trolls and disliking things that are popular is cool. Yeah. That game destroyed barriers. Sold over 10 million copies now. It's just, oh my god, something that blew my mind. I've never seen in history. When that game came out, it had over 100% attach rate. And people are like, well, how's that even possible? Because people that couldn't find a Nintendo Switch still bought the game. More people owned that game than the system itself.
I bought copies.
There you go. And
there it is.
And that's even with over 1 million copies of the Wii U version selling. It still had that attach rate in the Switch. Man, like my sister Tara has over 600 hours on the Wii U version. And we all have over 100 hours. And I know we talked before, we have our issues with it or whatever, but that game is so historically significant and important. I mean, oh my God, it gets me.
Well, this day of age, when you wait for something for a really long time, a lot of times it doesn't live up to hype for people, whether it be Game of Thrones, whether it be Star Wars.
Breath of the Wild did.
You know what I mean? A lot of times people are let down. It was pretty much universally loved upon its reception.
And what Will said, I got worried there at the end because, like we said, we didn't know anything about the game, so I didn't realize I was only being showed the plateau. And I told Will, they make a reference on how big the map is, and laughing at people saying they get 100% in a couple of days. And we're thinking, man, I was worried. I was like, man, maybe this game is not as big as it seems. And I was worried because we hadn't seen other areas like a desert or the water area and all that. But my God, it came out. Oh man,
I'd like to make 2 points here. One I want to say about Breath of the Wild, and it's something I didn't get mentioned the other day when we were talking. The reason why I don't pick it as my number one, and it could so easily be my number one, is just because I didn't say this. It doesn't feel like a Zelda game as much as other Zelda games are. Now, it's a great game. I love the game. It just doesn't feel as much as a Zelda game as the Zelda I remember.
Yep. Where Link to the Past. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I don't pick it as my number one. If it felt more Zelda-ish, because it feels more like a more of an open world other sandbox game. It has that type of feel, even though they took that to the next level.
Yeah, right. Open air is what they call it.
Okay, open air. Yeah,
that's what they call it. They call it open air instead of open world.
Yeah.
So it's
good call there.
It's funny. Like me and Nate have historically always joked around about him having qualms with Breath of the Wild. But in our first video, you saw how they could improve on the sequel. He gave incredible ways they can improve the game. Yeah. So what's crazy about this is, and it's clear that they're. I mean, we're getting a sequel and they're gonna make changes. And then here's about Nintendo and the Zelda team specifically. They historically insanely follow fan reaction. Great example. Wind Waker came out. Oh, it's Kitty. They came out with Twilight Princess. They are reactive to what the fans want.
Well, not only that, Nick, on Wind Waker's a good point. They gave you the faster sailcloth.
Well, that was the next point I wanted to bring up. That was the next thing I wanted to bring up about Wind Waker. When I first played it on the GameCube, I didn't finish the game because I didn't like it. When it came back out on Wii U, I absolutely loved it. It completely changed my mind about that game. When that faster wind sail came out with it, completely changed. I love that game. It's so good. The art style's always been phenomenal.
It's timeless because of its art style.
Yeah. Well, think about Link Between Worlds, guys. Even like they listen to people like, about open world and that style. Hey, pick a item and go try to figure it out. You know what I mean? Rent it and go. Like that was mind-blowing.
I think we probably have a lot of people watching this. I think some people are going to pick Wind Waker and Twilight as their favorite Zeldas.
Yeah.
And I just want to approach that real quick for a second. When I think of Twilight, I just feel like it's a more dark reimagining of Ocarina. I really feel it's a very similar game to that. I know it has the wolf and all. It's a great game. It's incredible. My only qualm with Wind Waker, I love Wind Waker. But dude, boys, you got 3 or 4 dungeons?
4.
4.
I mean, no, like you pump in 3 or 4 more, and that game could be top of my list. I love it, and I love the open ocean. I think it's great. I love the characters. But I just feel like maybe a little bit more. Just a little.
Nick's right. Another problem with me with that game, Nick said it. Not only that, you get the 4 dungeons, and then you go to the final area, and you fight all 4 dudes again. It's very frustrating.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Dude.
So it's even more like they double down. And don't be wrong, they're cool. They're very cool. But like, I've already done that. You know, I wanted to see something else. Great.
But
game,
the idea that Hyrule's been flooded and you go to Hyrule Castle, and that part was like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. That is.
I was just absolutely blown away by it. But yeah, the Breath of the Wild sequel, though, man, if they make some of these changes we're talking about and it brings some more Zelda even into it, that game could be so special, man.
Well, Nick, you nailed it. I think like Breath of the Wild, it's almost kind of like, it feels like a first of something, like The Force Awakens or A New Hope. You know they can improve on it, but it's still great. You know, it's still great with its flaws.
Another reason Breath of the Wild is so important, Nintendo forever, from N64 GameCube back, they were pioneers of gaming. They were fearless. Like Mario 64, they broke and made new modes. But then they got real redundant, like remakes or another new Super Mario Brothers game. They played it safe. Yeah. And the problem was their old OG gamer or programmers were getting older, and they had this young crew. They finally set them loose. And now the future looks so bright for the big end. Like, I don't care if you're a Sony guy, Microsoft guy. The first party king was, is, and always will be Nintendo.
Wasn't it Phil Spencer who said you own a Nintendo and then you own either an Xbox or a Sony?
Yeah.
You have a Nintendo.
Yeah.
Pick between those. We have all 3, I think.
Even he talks about playing new Nintendo games that come out. And even the Sony guys talk about playing new Nintendo games that come out because they know. And let's be real here. Nintendo's been around way longer. The only reason Sony even exists is because Nintendo says screw you on the PlayStation add-on to the Super Nintendo. Don't get me wrong, Sony's incredible, PlayStation's great, but my God, the best first-party games in the world are coming out of Japan, coming from Nintendo, boys.
Nintendo.
Right.
I mean, so you both said Link to the Past, your favorite Zelda of all time, and I'm going Breath of the Wild. And who knows, maybe in a couple of years we'll say it's whatever the new one is, you know.
Let me bring up something else real quick. I want to talk about the original box art for the Legend of Zelda on NES. The original Zelda. It's got the and you can throw a graphic up on that, Nick.
Absolutely, brother.
It's got the key, the heart, and the line. I just brought it up myself. I'm looking at it. Without even playing this game, looking at that box, you already know there's an air of mystery to this game.
Yeah.
That to me drew me in so much.
That go-kart, Nate, the go-kart shining through.
The little piece of golden car shining through. And here's something that A Link Between Worlds and Breath of the Wild both were similar in is you started out, you got everything you needed very quickly.
Yeah.
And we talked about that before. That if they bring back the key, the lion, and the heart, that air of mystery, back to Breath of the Wild, you're going to have the best game of all time.
You're right,
ever.
man.
That's heavy praise, and it's true, too, man. God, that game was coming with a map, oh my God, that game was so
Link
special.
To the Past, same way. Of course, it just has to go. You open up, you got the map in there. I mean, it's just Nate nailed it. It's mysterious.
When you got a game that you get a map as a kid, it's like, oh my God, here's the world. They had to give you a map just so you can figure it out what you're doing.
Yeah.
Circle bomb spots or places to come back to, and all that stuff. Wow.
The mystery of I want to know, like the key. You know there's a chest locked somewhere. There's something in it that you need to get. You know, there's just
and even the big dungeon key. I mean, that is not being in Breath of the Wild.
That's a cool one.
My mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you need that key to open the item for that dungeon.
And the main boss door. How epic is that? How do you take that out?
The Zelda formula is incredible. I mean, it's amazing. Yes. So we've had a great run with it, and the future looks as bright as ever for the Zelda franchise. But anyways, that's Will. Even though he's not allowed back ever on the show again. Nate, I'm Nick. We'll see you next Wednesday.
See you, boys.
Do it.